Tell us the most interesting natural stupid behavior you have ever witnessed. Let's start off with Mr. Rajesh Kumar, the Vice President, Marketing, India and South Asia UiPath. Mr. Kumar, what would that incident be? Very briefly.
I can't think of something very bright, but this is late in the day, but maybe some coffee will help. So, but generally, I think the putting any kind of intelligence above human intelligence to me is, really not right. When we go with the trends, we tend to put everything above us. I think artificial intelligence, as great it is, it's going to take very long time to catch up with the human intelligence.
Fantastic answer, Mr. Rajesh. Of course, we have with us Mr. Anirudh Mehta, the head of Information Technology, Prince Pipes and Fittings Limited. Mr. Mehta, what would your answer be?
It's a mixed answer because, like what you said is if you teach it once, just give me a minute, my video is not starting. There it is. So, it's a pretty mixed scenario because I've heard cases where AI has learned, the wrong things from the wrong data which humans have input and then, behaved in a wrong manner. But yes, we are maturing. We are coming up to that level where, a lot of previous structured data will help AI learn a lot from behavior. And it is definitely the start. I would rather say it has a lot of time to still mature and come to that level.
Fantastic. I was reading up about this article very, very recently about this fully functioning female bot. I forget her name. She also got the citizenship of Dubai, I believe. And she recently joked about killing human beings. It would be funny if it was not an actual bot. I mean, she's a fully functioning robot. I did not laugh at that joke. Okay. Fantastic answer, Mr. Mehta. We've got Mr. Sukanta Nayak, the Vice President, IT, Aditya Birla Management Corporation. Mr. Nayak, what would your answer be? I appreciate how nobody is naming names and saying, "Arey, oh, we had this man working in our office." But yes,
hi, good evening, everybody. Hi, good evening, everybody. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
See, I think the lot of talk has now on the AI front, but I think one thing I can tell you that AI adoption is increasing, I think, across the globe, but there is a lot of challenges are there. I think we'll talk about what sort of challenges the organizations are facing and what sort of a methodology are getting adopted to overcome that. I'm sure, I think it is a journey. I'm sure, I think all of us started some partly, and we are learning in the process.
Nicely evaded, Mr. Nayak. That was a very, very diplomatic answer, I must say.
And that is the way the diplomatic way is happening also.
Okay. Yeah, fantastic, sir. We have Mr. Vikas Gupta, the Chief Information Officer, H Energy Group of Companies. Sir, what would your answer be?
I would just want you to please repeat the question, please. I wasn't.
Not a problem, sir. The question is, we're keeping it very light. You're talking about artificial intelligence. What is the prime example of natural stupidity that you've witnessed?
The prime thing that we witness is this thumbprinting, I would say biometrics. Biometrics is, we recently got into something like scanning thing where basically you have to do scanning at the entry of the office. Now, the simplest thing that the stupidity if you're talking about, the power plugged in, people walking out in and out, and after a day you realize you don't even have the machine up and running. But I think we had some kind of a power at the edge, which I would say really saved us from some kind of bad face in front of the management where we ought to be setting up right, putting it on the UPS and things like that. Yes, that was one stupid instance, but somehow we made with, because it was only required for a 10-minute slot in the morning, so we could actually save our face.
Fantastic answer, Mr. Vikas. Exactly what we were looking for. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So you've got to know that it's going to be a very interesting session, of course. And on that note, we're going to start with the very first question. And the question is for Mr. Rajesh. Mr. Rajesh, the question is: artificial intelligence is one of the central enabler of transformation, regardless of the industry. And in the last 18 months, adoption of AI has skyrocketed and allowed for major disruptions as it should. What do you think is that one untapped area of application that your industry is yet to explore? And where do you see yourself in this journey?
I think while there is a lot of talk about artificial intelligence at a concept level, there is actually not a lot of it which is so far deployed. And I've seen automation provides, I can hear some echo.
Gentlemen, the other gentleman, I would request you to kindly switch off your mics in the case that you're not talking. I think it'll be for the benefit of all.
Yeah.
I will do that too.
Yeah. Thank you. So coming back to this, I think there is a lot of talk about AI and, for many years now. However, cases of successful deployment are far and few in between. I think we are still struggling to find a right vehicle for deploying AI. There are many barriers, both technological and business side. I've seen over the last few years, I think definitely automation provides a good way or a good vehicle for deploying AI in organizations in many areas related to process. And one area in general I see where there is a lot of untapped potential is the whole area of semantic AI. Because the AI today works on the logic of most of the structured data, statistics, and wherever you use non-statistical information, it's very keyword-based intel. But I think as you start, taking in the contextual understanding and interrelation of the information, in areas outside of statistical information and start relating it, we start bringing it in closer and closer to understanding what humans want it to do. Today, deploying, you actually have to break it down into very fine pieces, almost instructions to do it, which is very cumbersome when you start doing complex processes. But semantic, I think, is definitely a very fast emerging area and area which has been untapped so far, which will bring it eventually what you saw in maybe the Iron Man or any kind of fiction where you can instruct the bot and it could actually figure out what to do.
Very futuristic, Mr. Kumar. Fantastic answer as always. And of course, our next question goes out to Mr. Anirudh. Mr. Anirudh, our question to you is, as they say, tech is just an instrument for creating a culture that benefits people and customers. And what's good for customers is good for the business, of course. So adopting new technology like AI means reshaping the workforce and empowering them to use the right tech. So can you please share your best practices and recommendations for our audience here who come from various industries?
So, a very simple and a basic thing. We started off with RPA a couple of years ago, and we implemented RPA. We did a good couple of use cases. The same challenge which every new technology faces within the business is adoption and the change management. A very simple bit is why do I change, or why should something which is not broken be changed? Is always the question from the business. Plus, there are also times when the business comes back with some kind of an insecurity. I might lose my job, or things might go haywire, or I might not be value addition to the organization anymore. But what we realized with the RPA implementation is we showed them that you move to a higher order job, and we have RPA do the redundant stuff. So there was a simple case study where we did was a lot of business came up to us and told us we need to do business process improvement. But rather we suggested, why do you improve the process when you have RPA do the process? So a simple theory we applied, have RPA do it, do not improve the process. In fact, have people do higher order jobs and put them into the thinking bit, or have them wear the thinking hats. which made them happy, which got a lot of thought process within the business. And that was a very simple way to, make them adopt technology as well as, welcome technology with both hands and push for it. And a simple one RPA use case led to further implementation of another 7-8 use cases with immediate effect, and pushing for a lot of other technologies, saying what else can you give us, what else can you excite us with. So I think AI is also a similar way, with smaller use cases which should be targeted and taken ahead, which will give you a good idea as well as learning. Plus, with these kind of technologies, you do not even have good subject matter experts within organizations. So it's very important to have a stronger vendor ecosystem built, which will help business as well as the core technology team within the organization to take up these kind of projects and move ahead. So that's what my basic idea is.
Fantastic answer, Mr. Anirudh. And I just want to point out to our amazing audience members, unfortunately, Mr. Rajesh and Mr. Anirudh have a hard stop. So we'll have,
Yes.
and for our amazing other speakers as well. So we'll cover in the questions for these their pertaining questions first. And we request Mr. Sukanta and Mr. Vikas Gupta, we'll connect with you very, very shortly as and when the questions get done. So, Mr. Anirudh, just extrapolating on the point that you've just mentioned, right? What are some major barriers to AI adoption that you have personally overcome, and your advice to digital leaders who are trying to get in management, buy-in for new technology adoption?
See, it's not the management buy-in itself. See, being, I come from the pharma background also. I've worked in pharma for a good 10 years now. Pharma AI can be used in a lot of regulatory use cases for compliance, for a lot of regulatory data management and regulatory process management and everything. But what also happens is, there is no thumb rule to validate a AI, which is a basic regulatory requirement. And the questions come up is, what are the learning criteria? What is the learning speed for an AI? Or from what kind of data will it learn? How, if the data keeps building and there's wrong data which keeps building, will AI behave and not provide insights to do the right thing? So these are the kind of challenges and questions which the management also come up with. And for us as leaders, we need to be very clear on the kind of logic or the mechanism in which we put in AI. Because with AI, there is a lot of machine learning also which comes into place. And with all those things coming together, another challenge which we face and the management asks about is the kind of technical expertise that we have. And how are we going to build that around the current set of people? What is very important is there we need to convince the management with the right amount of training and upscaling of the current employees is very, very important, and have the right, I am reiterating that again, have the right vendor ecosystem to support you as partners and not as vendors.
I think you've had quite an experience with the vendor management, I believe, and we can almost see that pain in your eye. You're like, please.
That's not the case, because see, I'll tell you what, it's not a bad experience, I would rather say. But, being on the business side and, the business users, for them, it's a simple line item which says, I want a user ID and a password to log into the system. But there is no requirement detailing where it says, okay, the user ID should expire these many days, the user ID should be this, the password should be these many characters or this complexity. Those kind of implicit requirements are never there. There is a single line of requirement which comes in. So I do not blame the vendors also, because once it is implemented, the user learns about it. That's the reason when I said vendor ecosystem, because today the user cannot imagine what AI is or what RPA is or what ML is unless the user experiences or there is some kind of image in the mind. That processing will never happen.
Absolutely.
So that's a similar thing with the management which needs to be done.
Wonderfully put, Mr. Mehta. And coming, we come to our next question, which is for Mr. Rajesh. Mr. Rajesh, so automation without a well-balanced strategic approach can do more harm than good. what's a guiding principle that every organization needs to be mindful of while automating processes, and at what levels should IT leaders measure the ROI of their automation projects?
It's a really good question. And I think the answer has evolved over last 4 or 5 years. When automation started, it was really a bottoms-up movement. It was in the back of few enthusiasts in the organization, and many of them came from IT, but many of them came from business as well. Right? They saw opportunity to connect disparate pieces and solve problems which were not getting attention otherwise. And there's a good outcome which drove the movement forward. However, I think over last 5 years, it's become, and especially with COVID in the background over last 18 months, it's become too important a topic to be left at that. Today, what is really required is a strategic approach to this, right? And I would really suggest, 4 steps there. It's a bit early. Not a lot of organizations are there yet, but I think the organizations which have gotten there are seeing 2 to 3 times the benefit that, organizations who are not there seen, in our benchmarking studies. Firstly, the discussion needs to be seen as not automating routine processes, but connected to the digital transformation of the company, which means that it has to begin today with an executive visioning exercise. And therefore, it needs to break the silo between, tech and business. And we are happy to enable, in our role with the automation consulting practice or value engineering practice, where you do a design thinking type of workshop, you bring people together, identify areas across the organization, and develop some kind of a roadmap. And this is not a one-year journey. So what tends to happen is that when the discussion starts top down, you tend to get like almost a 3-year roadmap, because some of the gains will be immediate, but some will take a longer term. And this helps you secure some, essentially the resources, which is the, budget and commitment for a longer period of time. Of course, everybody will ask you annual milestones, but, it must not stop at that. So that's one sort of, area. Second, like I said, you need to get the plan signed off and budget signed off for a longer horizon to make a sizable impact. The third area is then how do you implement it? Like, Mr. Mehta, Anirudh Mehta said, I think there needs to be a concerted exercise to have what you call a center of excellence approach. You need to have a centralized center of excellence, and then you need to have functional area specific, COEs, where then you start building automations or, automation, obviously with the, with the combination of AI and ML into this, which are going to go company wide, and that can be shared, right? And then you combine it with Anirudh mentioned earlier area of things coming bottoms up, because smaller areas which COE will not have time. And those are not necessarily strategic when you look at organization wide. You need to democratize and provide users, or at least power users, ability to do so. And today, a lot of this is low code. And a lot of the self-built tools are available. So you can enable that. And last, I would say, most important area is the talent development and overall change management. This mindset, obviously, and you saw it even as early as 2-3 decades ago when, computers came to banking. Natural reaction as, this hurting the jobs. But if you look at the history, it has only grown the industry, banking, and jobs overall, right? It's the nature of work that changes. So there is a need to think of human plus digital workforce in a holistic manner. And we are seeing, some of the organizations that are evolving or that are adopting, in the org chart, they have, humans and they have robots, and those are named. So I know of organization, I can't put their name, their finance bot is called Kuber, and they have these in the org chart, and people are, you're seeing very soon, we have companies who are mentioning in their, annual report, we have so many human workers and we have so many digital workers. There are cultures like Japan where there is aging workforce problem. they are infusing more and more digital workforce for routine tasks, and they're mentioning these, right? And so very soon you will see people mentioning in their resumes, experience of managing, just like we say, team management, people management, they'll have digital workforce management experience. So those days are, coming. So I think developing overall change management to a new mindset, because, progress, none of us can stop. We can only align and benefit from this, because this is net going to increase jobs, quality of jobs, and opportunities for all of us, right? And then development of talent, bringing new talent in, but also reskilling, training people who are there, so that they see as a way to go forward, not as something that will come in their way. I'll stop there.
Fantastic answer, Mr. Kumar, and I think we can just hear it from you that the digital workforce is getting the much needed respect that they deserve. If their names could be written down on the resume and they are being named, wow, that's the future right there for you, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Kumar, any parting note from your end? It could be, like we said, could be analytical, professional person. Any parting note for your amazing patrons right here?
Yeah, my one sort of call almost is, and which I try to put, a hat of my colleagues from the technology side. The business teams have a lot of ask of technology, but, at some level, yes, they're all customers of technology and IT teams. But I think this time is to pull that silo away. I think all of us in the business functions need to befriend technology and learn and get hands-on with it. Because I think it is sometimes, as much as everyone tries to place demands on the tech function, it is a basic, direct understanding of technology, what it can do, what it can't do, and what to ask for, what not to ask for, how to collaborate, can really make all of us successful. Many times our fancy, especially when we hear things like automation, AI, ML, is driven by what we see in popular, cinema or science fiction books and so on and so forth. Reality is we are not getting there anytime soon, So therefore, more appreciation, more hands-on, downloading stuff, playing with it, makes us realistic, and then makes us collaborate better and take our organizations forward.
Great. Wonderful having you, Mr. Kumar, with us. Thank you so very much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. And of course, Mr. Anirudh Mehta. Mr. Mehta, what would be your top crisp parting note to your fans right here?
I will say a simple thing in terms of technology is change before the change changes itself. Because technology changes so fast, and if you are not at that pace, you'll be left behind. Set a platform which helps you beat that pace.
Great. Wonderful answer. Thank you so very much for your time, Mr. Kumar and Mr. Mehta. Wonderful having
thanks a lot for having me.
Leaders, and thank you. I would also, of course, want to thank Mr. Gupta and Mr. Sukanta for your patience, and we'd start off with this session right now. Again, thank you, Mr. Kumar. Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Wonderful having you at our session today.
Thanks a lot.
And ladies and gentlemen,
I have a few more minutes. I'll stay on. I'm keen to hear their comments. Until 6:30.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I just have to move out. So there's something.
Not a problem, Mr. Mehta. We'll catch up very soon, maybe in the future. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, continuing with Mr. Gupta and Mr. Sukanta. Mr. Gupta, very first question to you is, right, we've already discussed this, but we would want to know your perspective, and what do you think is that one untapped area of application that your industry is yet to explore, and where do you see yourself in that unexplored journey yet?
Thank you, Nikita. The thing is, we are actually in a gas distribution domain. So we have hundreds and thousands of kilometers of a pipeline, which basically connects to the national grid and from where the gas is supplied. I think surveillance is, of course, one of the very prime area which needs to get in. Of course, a lot of companies are getting in. It says that it's taking time because not many established players exist, and those which are existing, they are not actually don't have a pan in their presence. Of course, we are tied up. The second thing in this is, and which is very important, is that This is a very novice industry. A lot of startups exist, and there are startups which are learning to fail and failing to learn, and then they're still coming up their way in terms of providing their services. We've tied up with a couple of them on the entire western to central zone of India, where we have a few hundred and thousands of kilometers of the pipeline which needs to be surveyed. And this is essentially powered by, to some extent, AI, and there is machine learning involved in it as such. We have done some bit of extension. I will take you through in some time. But the most important question which you asked, which I wanted to answer, is that yes, there is some bit of lag in adoption, but I think very soon we'll be there from where we've started about 24 months back. And we didn't have too many artificially intelligent or super powered robots, as probably Rajesh just now said. The digital footprint is increasing with the days passing by.
Mr. Gupta, I mean, wonderfully put, but what a statement. Learning to fail and failing to learn. So you've got two very different companies who doing, the same words, failing to learn, learning to fail, but the order in which the words can be put is just changing how that industry or how that company is experiencing things. Fantastic answer, Mr. Gupta. And our next question goes on to Mr. Samantha. So your question is, right? Your advice to digital leaders who are trying to get in management buy-in for new technology adoption?
Hi, Nikita. I think I missed your question. Can you just...
Not a problem, sir. I'll repeat it for you. The question is, we would love to know your advice to all these passionate digital leaders who are hearing you right now, who are trying to get in the management buy-in for new technology adoption.
I think Rajesh, Aniruddha, I think we had a detailed discussion about what sort of the AI journey I think all of us have gone through it. I think the journey has started, but there's still a lot of challenges are there, and the challenges are different form. Like I think one part I think Aniruddha rightly put is the skill itself. So I think one is the upskilling type of activity that needs to be done in the organization. Particularly on the user front and also on the technology front as well. Because this AI is required a lot of technology things, along with also a lot of the new type of role they need to take place. Like if you take example, today in the health sector, the X-ray type of things is completely analysis done by the AI. So the radiologist who was doing that activity, today he can do some other job as well. So I'm saying this type of role is going to be changing as the AI adoption is there. So how to do upskilling and skilling of the internal people, that's one part. And the second thing is that today it is the fear of unknown is still there. That people, I think Rajesh was mentioning that still people are not very much familiar that what AI can benefit to them, what sort of the business impact is going to be there. So I think the fear of unknown is there. So how that sort of a fear of unknown can be mitigated by just doing a lot of use cases and in the industry wise, and then start referring that and start using it. I'm sure in India, I think Mankishore has mentioned that IFS has already started journey on this customer experience and also done some area on the customer acquisition as well. I think there will be some sort of a use cases type of thing can be able to get referred and make use of it. And second thing is that people have a fear about how to measure the value of that sort of the AI journey if at all I start it. And the other challenge is that today the AI requires a huge amount of data to do the analysis. Now the organizations are still struggling to get that sort of a data organized, and unless we have that sort of a data organized, we may not be able to reap the benefit of the AI itself. So other thing that how we can be able to start organizing our internal data and start making the journey on the AI front. I'm sure that AI as a technology is going to be there, and It is a matter of how you start adopting it and making it up.
Mr. Sukanta, very well put. Just I would request you to kindly, it was a little difficult listening to you because I believe you are using a device of some sort. So while we move on to our next question, sir, and we have another question to ask you. I would request you to kindly just if you could better the audio somehow, it will be easier for us to hear you, sir.
Nikita, I somehow the network is not in my hand, so I
Not
can put my
wrong, sir.
best effort of
Done, sir. Then we
I'm
were
in the
very
Wi-Fi of
listening
Airtel
to you
Wi-Fi.
like we were listening right now. Done. Not a problem, sir. Not a problem. It is audible. It is clear, but that's doable. Not a problem. Thank you so much, Mr. Sugandha. Of course, our next question is for Mr. Vikas. Mr. Vikas, can you please share your best practices and recommendations for our audience here who come from various industries?
Yeah, see, the thing is, each AI tool or the application of that particular, that particular application to a particular problem root cause is actually defined by the use case. There are not many best practices, I would say. It's more of, it's a gut feeling, but I would say a lot of that is driven by the vendor ecosystem as such. Now, when I say vendor ecosystem, it's not necessary that you have one vendor or two, but when you define the scope, the use cases basically can get drawn into many other intricate things. And let us look at, I'll just cite an example where we deployed this particular case of a site surveillance of our pipeline surveillance, which is about 600, 700 kilometers. Now, what happened in that case was that this particular device, this particular tool that we were using was meant to do only a pipeline survey. The best practice I would say for that would be defining the KPIs, measuring the KPIs against the actuals, and then measuring the performance for the deviation, whether if it is say a centimeter of a performance or execution that has to happen in say a day's time, if it has happened over a few hours, to measure efficiency, or if it has passed the day and there is no movement in such for that particular KPI, then that's how the efficiency is defined. Now, the thing is, if the best practice is to get extended, and if the use case has to go away from here to something different. Now, in this case, what we did was this particular device, this particular application, this particular tool that we were using was to measure the KPI of the pipeline, first laying, then monitoring whether there is any kind of a pilferage or there is any kind of an encroachment. We use this device and the technology to do a little bit more. Now, when I say that we use them to do asset review as such. What happens is, if you look at any pipeline, there are a lot of very heavily priced assets like JCBs, like various other devices which exist, which got to be moving through. Their rental is pretty huge in terms of money over a day. Now, what happens if these devices are staying idle for a few hours? The very objective of having them for a few days in a week is lost. Now, when I say that, the thing is that particular KPI, if I want to extend the best practice of a pipeline monitoring with an asset monitoring, the use case will differ. And that's what I said, the use cases are going to really be defining the best practices. However, when a platform is built to cater, to handle a broader layout than just one particular problem, then it is more advantageous. So I would say if I wouldn't want to compare the robotic process automation tools which are existing, which are defined for a specific job. This is more broad-based and gives you a leverage and a leeway in extending it from one use case to the other.
Fantastically put, Mr. Gupta, and what an interesting point, right? The use case is going to influence on everything, all the decisions that you're making. Amazing answer, Mr. Gupta. And of course, our last question for Mr. Sukanta before we take your apps. So, Mr. Gupta, you can start preparing for your ultimate top takeaway which you would want to give to our audience members while we ask Mr. Sukanta the very last question for the session. Mr. Sukanta, so the question to you is, what's a guiding principle that every organization needs to be mindful of while automating processes, and at what levels should IT leaders measure the ROI or the return of investment of their automation projects?
See, as far as the ROI measurement is concerned, now I go in the principle of defining that sort of a requirement at the beginning of the journey. That's what sort of the things are going to be there. And once your journey gets over, then you start measuring in terms of a KPI thing. And then, but in some cases, some initiative, you may not able to make use of ROI per se, but I'm sure in some journey, you can able to do this. And coming back to this, the guidelines and the principle thing on the AI front, what you just mentioned, I believe that sort of there's a lot of the business buy-in which requires to get this adoption. Otherwise, this journey cannot be really made effective to the business. And the second thing, the stakeholders collaborations also equally important, and the awareness of the sort of the technology, how it is getting effectively implemented across industry. I think that sort of things also awareness can be good, and then also the what sort of benefit they can also get it. I think that can be well educated to them. Possibly the adoption thing can be more effective.
Fantastically put, Mr. Sukanta. And of course, our last question to you: what is your final top brass tip that you'd want to give to our amazing audience members?
I think the technology is on the way of maturing now. Maturing in the sense, at least it started happening, and a lot of use cases are there. I think we should take some sort of business case and start exploring other business, and I'm sure that a lot of benefits to bring it to the market.
Great answer, Mr. Sukanta. And thank you.
I think the best is to have a top-down approach to begin with. The first thing and the foremost is to identify who is the stakeholder. The second thing is having budgets in place. And the third thing, as I said, is you got to set it from top down. Essentially, in such cases, what happens is these are strategic. And I think Rajesh made a mention, and even Anirudh, these are a little long drawn, and they have to fit into a strategy. Not necessarily these are transactional. Of course, these are transactions. They are supposed to address a few issues. But the thing is, they have to form a part of a larger strategy or a picture in place. And hence, a top-down approach really helps. One, from perspective of the stakeholder alignment. Two, in terms of the budget's assignment, and especially when you are looking at spanning them spanning these kind of projects over multiple years, if not a few more than 3 years or so. So it essentially will run into a couple of years, as I would understand, because covering a larger picture would need that kind of a time frame. And third is basically having budgets in place. So when you have budgets in place, initiative which is made definitely needs to sustain. And for sustaining, it needs buying in both from the stakeholders and the budget's perspective. So I would say these are the three things which are necessary to be taken care and need to be aligned for any projects that we are going to take up in near future or in the new age technologies.
Fantastic answer, Mr. Gupta and Mr. Sukanta. Thank you so very much for your time and, of course, your patience and sticking with us till the very end. It was an absolute delight to have the two of you over, and we at Exito are absolutely honored. Thank you so very much. Have a great day ahead.
Thanks, Inka.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we end the session, of course, our amazing audience members, the reason why we do it all is for them. We'll read out where we had left. We've got Mr. Gaurav Saxena writing, and one thing I've noticed is our audience members, they really like to good evenings, good mornings, good afternoons. So that is one point. Mr. Gaurav Saxena writes in good evening. Muthu Krishnan ji writes in hi. We've got Mr. Janak Bendoria writes in thanks. Prasad Sarvi, thank you. And thanks for the session. Vivas writes in all the session were very insightful. And the last comment, if I read, will sound extremely narcissistic, but Mr. Satish, the 4-day writes in Nikita, you're doing great work. Well done. Nicely handled each session. Thank you so very much, Mr. Satish. This is exactly what we need to get appreciation from amazing leaders such as you. Thank you so much. Made my day completely. All right.